This 22-year-old daycare worker was caught abusing over 20 babies and toddlers. Roxana Leka was born in Poland, but as a teenager moved to West London where our case takes place. In 2023, Roxana started her career working in childcare like daycares and nurseries. And in 2024, she started her position at Riverside Nurseries. Here, the children that Roxana would be caring after were averaging in ages between like 10 months old and 2 years old, so like extremely young babies. And choosing to work being surrounded by a bunch of very young babies can be incredibly stressful. So you would assume that anyone that would choose to go into that profession would be like really passionate about it and really love children. Reportedly, parents were spending £1,900 or over 2,500 US dollars per month per child to send their children to this nursery. And every parent hopes that when they send their kids to school, a babysitter's house, a daycare, that their kids are going to be taken care of. But I'm sure with those parents spending that kind of money, they assume that their kids are going to be getting like the best care possible. But several parents began reporting that their little babies and toddlers were coming home from the nursery with red marks, scratches, bruises all over their little bodies. And there was no explanation for this. Also, several coworkers of Roxana started noticing these scratches and bruises on these babies after Roxana was alone with them. Several of them also noticed that Roxana was like pretty rough with these babies. She certainly wasn't like handling them with care. And that brings us to June 28th, 2024. A coworker witnessed and then reported to management that Roxana pinched a baby until it cried. And this is clearly very concerning. There was already a bunch of rumors floating around. So management went and they looked at the CCTV cameras at the time that this coworker reported Roxana was abusing this baby. And on the security cameras, they saw Roxana pinching this little baby on its mouth, its face, its wrists, just all over its body, deliberately trying to harm this little baby. Roxana was immediately suspended from her position, but now the nursery needed to find out if this was an isolated incident or something that she was doing all the time. They got the police involved and together they reviewed all of the available CCTV footage they had from Roxana's shifts, and this was over 300 hours of footage. And they discovered dozens and dozens and dozens of incidents of Roxana abusing these little babies and toddlers. And this is absolutely horrific abuse. And I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what they saw. To these vulnerable, little defenseless babies, Roxana would pinch them, scratch them, she would slap them, she would twist their toes, pull their hair, punch them, and kick them. And most of these times, it wasn't even like it was out of frustration, not that it would make it okay. There's never an excusable reason to abuse, harm a child. But the reason I point that out is because she was doing this just because she wanted to, because she liked it. It's like so sick in the head. There was one incident where Roxana just walked past this little baby minding its own business. It wasn't crying or anything, and unprovoked, Roxana just slapped it in the face. She would drag toddlers across the floor by their hair. She would grab them by their necks. She would push them, throw them. She would throw them on their heads. She was also always smoking in front of these babies, and she would like blow it out in them, like at them while they were sleeping in their cots. There was one incident with a little toddler boy. He couldn't have been any older than 2 years old. Roxana kicked him in the head and the face repeatedly, just over and over again. And while this little boy was on the floor crying, she came up and she stomped him on his shoulder. There were days where a single child would suffer abuse at the hands of Roxana Leka dozens of times in a single day. There were incidents where Roxana would smother these little babies for a short amount of time, but this she's escalating to a more dangerous place because it does not take a very long time to smother a baby to end its life. So this is just absolutely horrific abuse. I mean, these are babies. They're vulnerable. They can't defend themselves. They can't speak. They can't tell anyone what's happening to them. How much damage did she cause, not just to their bodies, but to their little impressionable minds? There's so much trauma here and there's so much healing that needs to happen, not just for the babies, but for the families. How can the parents ever be expected to trust anyone ever again? And in the footage they had available for them, they saw that Roxana Leka had abused over 20 babies and toddlers. And on July 5th, 2024, at her home, she was arrested. At the station, she refused to speak to anyone. She was denying that she did anything wrong. She was charged with 24 counts of child cruelty, and despite a mountain of evidence against her, they literally had her on camera doing these things. She pled not guilty. When her trial started, she ultimately pled guilty to 7 counts of child cruelty, but kept saying that she was innocent of the other 17. I don't know if she was trying to like make a plea deal or something, but they were not interested. And at her trial, she was really trying to like play up that she was just this young girl who doesn't know anything and didn't know what she was doing was wrong. But in June of 2025, she was convicted on 21 counts of child cruelty, and she was sentenced to 8 years in prison, which is a long time, but by the time she gets out, she'll be like 30, in her early 30s. Parents of some of the victims believe that if Roxana Leca hadn't been caught, she would have kept escalating her abuse until she ultimately killed a child. Let me know what your thoughts are, because honestly, I agree. But I'm absolutely interested to hear your thoughts on that. Also interested to hear what you think we can do to make sure that like something like this never happens again. So interested to hear all your thoughts in the comments. While you're there, please be respectful to the families of these victims. These are really young people that we are discussing, and these families have a lot of healing they're gonna have to go through. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, but please be respectful. And while you're there, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. Thank you to everyone that suggested that I cover this case, and I will see you guys all next time in my next video. Please be a good person to your fellow person.